Hey guys, this is Justin again with another quick Photoshop tutorial. And this time I wanted to show you a little bit about layers in Photoshop and what those are used for. So let's go ahead and open up a document. I'm just going to open up a picture that I put on the desktop here. All right, there we go. Okay, so what we got here with filters, let me zoom in a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. So filters are kind of a special effects type thing in Photoshop, and the whole point of these things is that they allow you to create different types of effects, modify your image somewhat, so that you have these different types of looks and feels for your document. So first things first, I'm going to unlock my background layer over here so that I can actually apply my filters. Now, there's actually a couple different ways you can apply filters, and that's worth noting here before I even get into this stuff. So let me double click my background layer and click OK. So there's these things in Photoshop called smart objects, and this is one of the times where that becomes useful is in the application of layers. So this is just a regular layer. It's not a smart object of any sort. So what I can do if I go into my layers here, I'll just kind of show you, or my filters over here, and this is the tab up top. It's called filters. There's a bunch of filters that I could apply just to my basic picture here, okay, just a basic rasterized layer, right? So if I apply these to my layer, and which I will do that here in a minute, these are applied to my layer, and they're effects that are they inherently change the layer. They apply to the pixels of the layer. You can hit Control Z and go back after you've applied a filter, but as you're aware of in Photoshop, hopefully you only have a limited number of these Control Z's or Command Z's to go back a step or two in your history. So these are destructive filters essentially. If you apply these and then you go too many steps, you're stuck with it. Now, if you convert your object to smart filters up top, what that lets you do is apply these filters, and they will stack on top of your layers just like we saw with the layer styles, and you can remove them at any time. So this just depends on whether you're not sure. If you're not sure about how a filter works, you can use these smart filters. Okay. Now I'm going to do the regular filters first, and then I'll convert our object for smart filters and just show you the difference. All right. So first things first here, these filters, there's a bunch of these in here, and I'm not going to go through all of them because that would take just way too long, and really that would be unnecessary because you just get in here and try these things out. That's the best way to do it. There's different categories. They're pretty self-explanatory, like blur. Blur is your object. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Noise adds noise, you know, and so et cetera, et cetera. So go through and look at these things and try them out and see what they do. Try combining them together. That's how you get really cool effects, is by mixing and matching here. All right. So maybe just for instance here, all right, I'm just going to apply a blur just to show you what the idea is here. And there's lots of different kinds of blurs. I mean, there's all kinds of different things we can do here. For instance, like radial blur, lens blur, motion blur, Gaussian blur, which is just a plain old blur if you wanted to make something look kind of fuzzy in the background. I'm going to apply just a Gaussian blur just to show you what that is. It's a very common blur. So I apply that, and a lot of these filters, you can see right here, pop up. We have this little preview window. You can see it's actually showing us the blur here in the canvas. It shows you the radius of the blur. I can crank, very simple, slider, right? We crank it up. Oh, look, our picture gets more blurry, right? So this is pretty straightforward, a lot of these filters. One kind of cool thing with this, I'm going to hit cancel, is that these filters will apply to a particular selected location. Okay, so what that means is, say this for instance, I'm going to grab my marquee tool and I'm going to grab a selection around the cat here. So let me do a selection from the center of the face outwards. Remember, you can hold down Alt and Shift at the same time to do what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I've got the interior of the cat's face selected right now, but I want to blur the exterior. I want to kind of like make a fake lens blur on this, and actually got to make my selection a little bit smaller so you can see what's happening a little better. There we go. I'm going to do Select Inverse, so I can get the exterior selected now, right? The exterior of my object selected. Filter, and actually what's kind of cool, again, whatever you select here, filter blur, Gaussian blur, check it out. This will blur out just the exterior since I have that piece selected. So you can focus in and apply a filter to a specific location, which is actually really helpful. So there's one option, right? I'm just going to hit Command D to deselect that so that I don't have that selected anymore. See, there we go. Now we have this kind of like soft lens blur type thing going on here. Other types of things in the filter galleries, because I'm not going to go through all of these. One kind of neat thing here is the actual filter gallery itself. If we click this, that pops open this new window that has some preloaded effects. A lot of these are artistic style effects, sketch, stylized texture. And this is kind of neat because you can apply these, drop this down, and click on these, and it shows you a preview what's happening. And then you can change your settings to kind of change the effects of the filter, right? So I got colored pencil, cutout, fresco, all kinds of different artistic style effects. Now it kind of looks like a smudged painting. Okay, brush strokes, distort. I can add a diffuse glow, a glass look, all kinds of different things inside here. So that's another option is your filter gallery here. Say I add a glass to this, and I click this little new effect layer down here. Now, essentially what this is trying to kind of, this is before the application of these smart objects, and this is kind of a non-destructive filter array as well. If we click this little new effect layer button down here, this lets us stack effects. So now I've got the glass effect applied, but maybe I also would like to apply a like an artistic effect like cutout on top of this. Now it has the glass effect here, right, which I can change. See that? And then I can go up to the cutout effect and change that as well. See? So now I can mix and match and get kind of again, the whole point of these filters is that you can stack these things and get different style effects. Kind of a weird effect, but let's just say I want that. I'm going to click OK. And now it's applied to my layer. Again, it's if I run out of Control Z's, I can't go back to where I started. Like I can't go back to my original picture. I'd have to load up the one from scratch. So this is the regular filter process, the kind of destructive filter process. I'm going to go back a couple notches, and I'm going to show you how to apply smart filters to these things. So let me go into my history here. Now I'm going to go up to where I just opened my object and unlocked my layer. So remember, your history is up here. You can step back a bunch of steps. You can always set how many history options you want in your preference as well. All right, so over again, I got my layer selected, right? Filter, convert to smart filters. All right, so I'm going to convert that to smart filters. It says, hey, you can edit these smart filters, convert it to a smart object. I'm going to click Don't Show again. All right, now the only thing that changes is the little icon in the corner here of your layers. Smart object, you've seen these before when you import pictures and stuff like that. They come into smart objects, right? So now what I can do is, and I can apply these smart filters. I'm going to go back to my blur, and I'm going to apply a Gaussian blur to my layer, just like I did a minute ago, right? So here's a Gaussian blur. I'm going to click OK, right? Here's the big difference with this. Now you can see it, obviously, in your layers here. This is now stacked on top of my layer, and I can go through and remove this. I can preview it or not preview it with the little eyeball. If I don't like this, I can go in and double click it, and it will open my filter back up. Maybe I'll apply a little less of a blur to this. Click OK. Or if I don't like it at all, I can take this and I can throw it in the trash, and it removes the filter entirely. So you can stack just like you did before. I'm going to go back a notch, and I'm going to apply this Gaussian blur, and I'll apply one more filter. Let's apply like I'm going to do something really goofy like a tiles or something like that to it. I'm going to click OK. Now I've got these two effects stacked on top of each other, right? So the Gaussian blur and the tiles. We can also rearrange them. Check that out. I drag the Gaussian blur underneath the tiles and vice versa, and it'll change the order in which these are applied. It has the Gaussian blur and then the tiles on top of it, and then vice versa if I drag it around. So this is far superior to applying them directly to the layer. Requires a little more memory, but that's not a big deal. It's easier to work with. You can close this stack up if it gets in your way as well. So that's a pretty helpful thing, these little smart filters. I just wanted to show you that. Pretty useful thing as well. So the last thing I'm going to show you in the filters here, keep it pretty quick today. In the filter options, one of the more interesting ones you'll see a lot is the Liquify. Everybody loves this one. So I'm going to go into the Liquify filter and show you what this does. All right, so here's my Liquify filter, actually very commonly used in the industry for all kinds of different retouching. So in my Liquify over here, I've got a little simple tools palette, and what we've got here is the ability to warp and change and expand and move around, essentially turn your picture into a liquid surface here. So just to kind of illustrate this, I'm going to use the default forward warp tool here, okay? I can grab this object and I can move things around on it. See, check this out. I can just grab and subtly push the pixels of this object around to increase the eye size on this cat. I mean, you can greatly smudge these things around. You can move them around quite a bit. It's like a liquid surface. I'm going to Control Z that back. Okay, you've got options over here, the size, okay, of your tool over here. You got the pressure, so all this different stuff you can use. I can move the whole face over a notch if I want. I can make the whole face shorter if I wanted to. Check that out. I just made the whole face of the cat shorter. Kind of a more subtle effect. If I wanted to do something like that, it's very easy. Common tools over here, you've got the pucker and the bloat tool. Bloat tool, I can grab the bloat tool and I can spot increase or decrease. Like say I'm going to go back over this eyeball over here, and I'm just going to click it a couple times, and look at that. I can blow the eye size up on this cat substantially. Okay, I can blow this one up really big, and maybe I'll go back to the pucker tool and I'll shrink this one down. So now I got this crazy looking cat over here, right? Now, if I've done a bunch of stuff to it, what's neat about this filter is I can click Restore All here, and it resets back to my original, right? So if I wanted to just slightly increase the eye size on this cat, I could do that. If I don't like it, I can click Restore All. You've got some advanced mode options down here, those, but it's kind of a pain. To see all that stuff, it'd be a really long tutorial. One of the only useful things I'll show you down here is this mesh option, right? This mesh actually shows you the points on this mesh and how they get distorted based on how I change my object. You see that right there? This actually constructs a mesh, and you can see how much the distortion is in that mesh. That really helps if you're not quite sure what you've changed on an object. You can kind of go through and look at this mesh and go, oh, okay, I see that I've pushed this mesh over a little bit, so I know where I've changed this object. So that's it for today. I'm going to click OK and apply that effect there. And as always, if you need to see anything specific, you can always email me, justincussman@gmail.com. It'd be a great way to get a hold of me, and I can make a custom tutorial for you. Other than that, hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you have a good day.